Withers is a very exciting firm. We've been here in Hong Kong since 2008, but we've been in existence since 1896, so it's a very, very old firm. First established in London, but like so many interesting people in Hong Kong, the firm has very much gone global over the last 15 years or so. And our speciality is working for successful people. And successful people doesn't always mean rich people. Successful means people who are really putting something into society. So people who are offering employment to people, providing opportunities through charity, people who are often very wealthy as a result of being successful, but success means something wider than simply being rich. So the firm very much specialises in that sort of area of the law. And since we've been established in Hong Kong, we find that we are increasingly working with a whole range of people, not just in Hong Kong, but mainland China, of course, and now wider Asia, not just Singapore, but increasingly working in Indonesia and the Philippines. So the whole region has become very, very important to us. And the whole issue of globalization is very important for people who base themselves in Hong Kong. And as a result, the sort of work we do, which is estate planning, wealth planning, tax advice and immigration, is very much of interest to people who are facing here in Hong Kong for the first time the sort of regulations that affect people in the US and the UK and worldwide. And so before they engage in any kind of trust planning or investment or any kind of business building, they need to know that they're going to be subject to the regulations and tax laws of other countries. And we're helping successful people in Hong Kong and this region understand and cope with the problems of international financial transparency, which is a nightmare. And it's something that we in Hong Kong have slowly had to get used to, because we're used to being far more private with our funds. And suddenly, because we are doing things internationally, we find ourselves having to be exposed to financial disclosure and transparency in a way that we've not become familiar with, and so our lawyers here provide that kind of guidance in terms of the transparency. Not easy. And our main feature in the firm, both in Hong Kong and worldwide, but certainly in Hong Kong, is dealing with the three dreadful Ds in one's life. And the three dreadful Ds are death and divorce and dementia. So these days we're dealing with not only the sort of inevitable issues like death, it comes to us all and we have to plan for that one way or another, but Hong Kong has completely caught up with other countries like the US and the UK and beyond, in that divorce is now increasingly a problem for couples, whatever their age. And so divorce is something that you have to deal with in the wider sense. And also a phenomenon of modern life where people are living longer, thank goodness, but that means, sadly, a number of people are facing issues of dementia in their life. And it means that as a firm, we're now dealing with the consequences, dealing with the person themselves before they're too badly affected, and more often with the family, dealing with the effects of dementia, particularly if that person who is now suffering is a person who's been a very key person in the family business, in the family structure. Here in Hong Kong, you still have many older parents and grandparents still holding on to the company. And so we are dealing with all the issues as a result of dementia and mental illness generally. Now, you don't have to be old to be suffering from a mental illness like dementia, but it's more likely to happen as we do deal with an aging population. So that's very much the focus of our work here.
I want to know, with the rising divorce rate across Asia, how is that impact Wither's practice in Hong Kong? Do we increase staff, or how we deal with that?
Yes, it means that we've got more work than we've ever had to deal with before. And as a result, I've needed to build up my teams here in Hong Kong in order to deal with the growth in work. And what we offer here is a range in terms of the type of people who can deal with different cases. So I have a Chinese partner, Rita Koo, who is fluently trilingual, as indeed most of my Chinese colleagues are these days. And she deals a good deal with the increasing market from the mainland Chinese or high net worth Chinese in Hong Kong, whose divorces involve very complex company and trust issues. So we have a number of partners here dealing with the family side of our case, and we also have another 12 lawyers dealing with family issues, as well as a big backup in the family department. So we are now the largest family law department in Hong Kong, no question. And it means that virtually every day one of us are in court dealing with something, and we have a number of clients coming through the doors every day with a variety of legal issues, and we are constantly busy. So the practice has developed a huge amount over the last 5 or 6 years here in Hong Kong, and I see no sign of that not increasing. Divorce rates are up in Hong Kong, and that means there are going to be more clients coming to us for assistance. What is a very interesting development over the last few years is the rise of prenuptial agreements. And when I first started practice many years ago, people were too embarrassed to really think about prenuptial agreements, and they thought this was something that, you know, was really American and they learned about from American TV shows. But increasingly, families are now interested in prenuptial agreements, and that's either being initiated by one of the couple themselves, or more usually from the mother of one of the children getting married. And I say children, but I mean people in their 30s. And it's the mother who is approaching me or one of my colleagues to say that their child is very much involved in the family business, or there is going to be a great deal of money to come to their child in time to come. And what they want to do is to ensure that assets are insulated from any breakdown of the marriage in order to ensure that the family doesn't lose a huge amount of money in the event of divorce. And so I then set things up, I explain things to the parents, and then see the child who's getting married. And as I say, the child has usually got a very powerful job of their own, a grown-up in their 30s, who are, the child is generally a bit reluctant to come and see me and is only doing it because mum has insisted. But once we start exploring the options and why it's important, everybody relaxes and we try and do things as calmly as possible. And in fact, in order to try and take the heat out of the situation so it doesn't become a very embarrassing process, we've actually prepared a really nice little book for people to see and take away. And actually, I'll let you have a copy to take away, because it's a really nice little book explaining that this is not a big deal. It doesn't mean you don't trust the person that you love, and it doesn't mean that you are definitely going to have a divorce. All we're saying in this book, and all I try to explain to people when they come in to see me, is it's an important precaution. And it's a great way of discussing matters with the person who you do love and who you do expect to spend the rest of your life with, about really important issues concerning how you envisage your life going forward, what your dreams are in terms of finances, and when you would both like to see a time when you can stop working, and whether you're going to buy a villa in southern Spain, and how things can develop for you as a couple. And often couples talk about everything these days except money and except how they expect their futures to develop. And it's still very much a taboo subject, because people feel it's a little bit vulgar to talk about, bank accounts and whether they're going to keep joint bank accounts and what's going to happen if this happens or that happens. But once we start talking to people in a very relaxed way and talk about various options, usually we get the thing sorted out very quickly. So that's been a major, major shift in practice since I've been working. Another really, really amazing shift has been the number of men now making claims against women. So traditionally, it was women who were the more financially vulnerable and who were making a financial claim against their husband in the event of the breakdown of the marriage. But what has happened of late is the rise of very, very competent, professional working women who are working mothers as well. And in fact, most of our workforce here are working mothers. My partner Rita Koo is a working mother. And what that has led to is sometimes these really powerful, clever women making not such clever choices when it comes to the guy they end up marrying, or because of circumstance, because of the way a woman's career has developed, the man occasionally takes a back seat in terms of his career development and becomes more of the stay-at-home parent. And that means you've got a series of men making claims against women so that they are protected financially going forward. Now that's fine as far as the law is concerned, because the law in Hong Kong doesn't provide any kind of gender bias. So men and women have equal rights when it comes to making applications before the court. But still socially, there's something slightly irritating, particularly for the women, when they find that it's the man who is making the claim against them, and expecting the woman to go on working long term in order to provide for the ex-husband as well as for the children. No mother minds providing for her children, but it is quite irritating when you have to provide for an ex-husband. So the law and social values are sometimes slightly out of sync when dealing with that particular modern phenomenon.
I have several questions.
Yes.
From what you said.
Yes.
First is you mentioned you help a lot of successful mainlanders. I want to know how is their life involved in Hong Kong law practice, because I know they marry in Hong Kong, or they marry in mainland, or what? They have assets in Hong Kong,
or they live here.
Oh, they live here.
Yeah, or at least they have a substantial connection with Hong Kong, and that is enough to enable them to divorce here. So it doesn't make any difference where you marry. So they can marry in mainland China, or they can marry on a beach in Thailand.
But they can still get divorced in Hong Kong.
They can still get divorced in Hong Kong. And that makes Hong Kong a very important jurisdiction if anything goes wrong, because the main thing that Hong Kong can offer that many other jurisdictions can't offer, including mainland China, which is still developing its divorce and family law, what Hong Kong can offer is this concept of full financial discovery processes. And this means that as part of the divorce process, both the husband and the wife have to make what's known as full and frank financial disclosure, which really sets out all their financial circumstances, including any money they've inherited or might inherit, And they also have to explain to the court here any change in financial circumstances that's taken place 3 years before the divorce petition was filed. So that means that somebody who was planning for a divorce and so sold an asset to their mum or transferred an asset to their girlfriend or boyfriend has to disclose all of this as part of the Hong Kong discovery process. And if any of the transfers look a bit dodgy, or there's no sort of logical reason why assets might have disappeared, then the court can bring everything back to the table and say, even for disappeared money, that will go on the balance sheet of the side of the person who's dissipated those assets or got rid of those assets if it doesn't look as though it was done properly. So that's quite a powerful weapon in the Hong Kong divorce process in order to ensure that there really is a fair financial distribution. And Hong Kong's starting point now is equal division of capital. So the court needs to know what there is before it can be divided. And it doesn't mean that everything is always going to be divided equally. You can always argue that certain assets should be taken out of the pot if they were inherited or they were acquired as a result of something remarkable that you did without the assistance of your spouse. But the starting point is equal division of capital. So that's quite a high threshold and makes Hong Kong a very attractive option for divorce proceedings, which is why if there are assets here in Hong Kong or the mainland Chinese couple have a substantial connection with Hong Kong, it's often preferable that the proceedings are started here and pursued here rather than in mainland China. Also because mainland China, the divorce courts won't necessarily take into account overseas assets as far as division is concerned, whereas Hong Kong will. And that will mean that for a number of the high net worth Chinese who have invested intensively in the US or the UK or Australia these days increasingly, those assets would be lost in terms of the calculation for a mainland Chinese spouse, whereas here in Hong Kong it can all be taken into account. And the court here can effectively make orders concerning overseas assets. Again, something that mainland Chinese don't have that same ability. And it's going to be very interesting as part of the mainland Chinese matrimonial law processes to see how the law changes in mainland China in order to take into account that reality, given that there is an increasingly large high net worth population in mainland China. So very interesting social and political and legal developments ahead in mainland China.
I also want to know, you obviously is expert of the law, and would you suggest for those wealthy, successful couples before they get married to sign a prenup?
I do. I really, really do. I think
because like we usually find the concept is to protect the wealthy one, and for often the wife, and if they sign it, it's like they are less protected.
You know, that's a very interesting thing you say, really interesting, and you're absolutely right in terms of that being the common perception of a prenuptial agreement. But actually, a prenuptial agreement can even better protect the less wealthy. So the wife may be coming into a wealthy family, or the husband, because what the prenuptial agreement will also do is provide a settlement for the wife in the event of there being a divorce. So, and that can be either a fixed sum, so the wife knows exactly what's going to happen if she divorces even after 7 years. The prenuptial agreement will let her know exactly what kind of financial settlement she can expect. Or it can be of a more general kind. So the calculation as to how the financial settlement is to be based can be can be incorporated in the prenuptial agreement. So it can say a fixed proportion of the capital that's been acquired during the course of the marriage. So the prenuptial agreement is not, 100% not, just about protecting the wealthy. It is also giving some financial comfort and security for the person who enters into the marriage in a more financially vulnerable state. And it provides a certain amount of clarity. Now, the court can always interfere with any agreement that a couple reaches. So anything that is fundamentally unfair or becomes unfair because of life's circumstances and how destiny unfolds can be catered for. But it means going into the marriage, each of the couple in that relationship knows what their role is going to be, and if the worst comes to the worst, what is likely to happen. And if a couple are happy, there's nothing to prevent the wealthier party giving assets to the less wealthy party so that there's more of an evenness. And what I usually advise in prenuptial agreements for couples is that they should each always maintain their own individual bank account. I think that's quite important for people's financial independence and self-esteem in any event, to know that they've always got money of their own that they can do anything with without having to ask anybody. But also to have a joint account. And then when money is placed in that joint account, it becomes a very conscious decision by each of the couple in deciding what they are then deciding and agreeing is going to become joint money. And I think that's quite good. It means that the couple are constantly reviewing how their endeavours, their aspirations are developing during the course of their relationship.
I'm curious about practicing law in Hong Kong, and also meeting with different clients from mainland and also from Hong Kong.
Yes.
And their demands. Is there any fundamental or major difference from other regions, in Hong Kong, influenced by traditional Chinese culture? Is there demands different or anything?
Yes, up to a certain point. I mean, I think it's still correct that our Chinese clients would prefer not to go to court. So Chinese clients are very much approach things from the philosophy that to enter the courtroom door is like entering into the mouth of the dragon. So let's try and avoid that if at all possible. And so Chinese clients do want to use every avenue of what's known as alternate dispute resolution. So mediation, adjudication, settlement discussions. Quite often there will be involved a senior member of the family to see if they can intervene and assist. But there then comes a point where a Chinese client is like every other client all over the world. If they feel that something is fundamentally unfair or unjust, they'll get to that point of slamming the table and say, enough, I'm not prepared to compromise to such an extent that I'm left in an undignified position, and therefore I'll proceed to court. Face remains terribly important to Chinese people. They want matters to be dealt with in a very dignified way. Chinese people are very sensible and pragmatic. They don't want to spend all their money on me, sadly. They want to be able to save their money for their families and for themselves. So they want me to try and do things in a really efficient and effective way. And sadly, some cases go to court. But, even these days, I would say fewer than 5% of our cases actually proceed to trial or to court, because the demand of clients is to resolve the problem as quickly and efficiently as possible. And so the cases that go to court generally mean that you're dealing with somebody on the other side who is determined not to settle, or is completely obsessive about litigation, or is just determined to have revenge for a failed relationship. And so it's that very small number of cases that will go all the way to trial usually.
Great. I want to know the firm's future plan in Hong Kong. Is it gonna to expand in certain area or any plan in that?
We're going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. And so the family law department is very well established, and that is just going to grow organically because there is so much work and we do have so many clients coming to us that we're going to expand. And we have far more Chinese-speaking assistants and partners because that reflects what's going on in this area, and that's going to continue. Our wealth planning departments in Hong Kong are as the biggest in Asia. So we have more US tax lawyers and wealth planning advisors and UK tax lawyers and wealth planning advisors than any other firm in Hong Kong or in this region. So that will continue to grow because of the nature of clients who are coming to us. We're developing further our commercial department because many of our clients now have very strong commercial and company interests. And so we are responding to the request of our clients to have here in Hong Kong, as opposed to them using any of the offices regionally, hands-on commercial assistance. So we have a commercial partner now with a small corporate and commercial team, but that is something we are developing, and we're looking to expand in this region with more Chinese-speaking partners and assistants. So they are our main areas of growth. Our immigration department is growing also, and that's because many of our mainland Chinese as well as our Hong Kong Chinese and regional clients want to have access to other passports and need to know that they are tax secure in those environments. So that's already very well established here, but that is likely to grow. We also have strong litigation, so civil litigation capacity here in the firm, and that, in line with the commercial and corporate development, is likely to grow also. So we're likely to strengthen in areas where our clients are saying they want that additional backup. Because what a firm like Withers can offer is very much the under one roof solution. So what we find these days is clients want to be troubled less with going to all different law firms for all different legal advice. So if under the same roof we can offer a comprehensive legal service that meets all their needs, then we're happy to do that. There's one family, a very prominent family here in Hong Kong, of course I can't go into names, but for this prominent family, I've now done all the prenups for the children and for the cousins. And having done all of that, we're moving into the next phase of their life and for their parents' lives, and now dealing with their wills and their trusts for the next stage in planning, because all those children and cousins that I did the prenups for, they've all started having children. And the parents who first introduced their children to me to do the prenups are realizing that there needs to be a succession plan going. I have the parents in, I have the children that I did the prenups for, and I've now married, and sometimes I even marry them here in the office. Very comprehensive service. And have the children come in, so that as a family we can sit round a table like this. We have tea, we have cakes. I have a couple of lawyers come into the office to talk in a very relaxed way about the issues that the family as a whole, so the wider family, need to consider in order to ensure that in the event of the passing of someone in the family, either the elder or somebody in the younger age group, or in the event of there being any illness, that the family as a whole will know how best to operate. And that's become a very, very effective way of dealing with things because it's a non-threatening way of explaining to wider families what it is that we need to do. And if we are then able to do the will work, me having done the prenups, then often we're needing work to be done by our philanthropy department here in terms of the trusts, or our US or UK wealth planners to set things in motion, or because those high net worth families, the established families here in Hong Kong, already have very established businesses or banks or whatever, then our corporate and commercial department need to come in order to revise and review some of the arrangements they already have in-house. And what clients like about that is that they have a completely private service from a firm that is very used to dealing with very sensitive issues on a whole range of things, and everything can be done comprehensively and without too much fuss, and with things being put in place very, very tidily. And then once these things are done, they can forget about it for a few years until things happen, and then we can deal with it. So that, I find, is a very sort of interesting way of developing business and assisting clients with their own family interests. As I said, to get them in here with a cup of tea and chat about things generally with a few lawyers is a really very nice way of doing things.
Do you see the demand for the elder generation to set up trust or planning for the future rising? Because like a few years back, like in Hong Kong, many wealthy established families have went into some dispute when something bad happened to the key person.
Yes. Absolutely. And what we find with the trust is that we have to explain that once we've created a trust, people need to know that they can't use the trust and trust money as though it were their own. Because if it's going to be a trust that's going to really last and have the real objectives that the people need to make sure that there is money for generation after generation, and that there's money available for charitable endeavours, in order to ensure that that kind of trust is not attacked in any divorce proceedings or subsequent proceedings following the death of the settlor of the trust or the creator of the trust. It's very important to have independent operation of the trust. So that means trustees need to really maintain control and listen to representations made by the person who has created the trust or beneficiaries to the trust, but it has to be seen as a separate entity there to preserve funds for the family and to develop funds for the family in terms of what's available to it. But increasingly important as Hong Kong Chinese and mainland Chinese and people in the Asian region are more mobile and need to know that assets are not necessarily going to be scooped up by American tax or any other tax regime. So very important to have these trust structures in place. Also really important in terms of, I think, an older generation of a dynasty here in Hong Kong, recognizing that when the really serious patriarch passes away, or matriarch, it's really important that the next generation of children are not embroiled in huge litigation. And we've seen that here in Hong Kong, you know, very respectable families fighting endlessly over property deals and whether this is included and that's included. It's very undignified. It splits families apart. And it's now the older generation actually recognizing that they have to come to terms with their inevitable mortality to ensure that their very best gift for their children and generations beyond them is that their legacy is something tremendously positive in terms of ensuring that there is a structure in place for the ongoing generations, and that the legacy they're leaving is not chaos and dispute. And again, I think it's very important that it's the older generation realizing they have to face that reality of their own in time inevitable passing in order to ensure that they're not going to leave chaos and dispute behind. That's why the tea parties I have with the families is quite interesting. That the family offices themselves and all the children within the family offices are recognizing that the structures have got to be in place, not just for them to benefit, but for the children and generations behind them. It's very, very interesting, very exciting area of work, actually, to be really planning for the future. And it's such an exciting area of work that you can do it in a very positive way. So not everybody sort of needs a strong drink thinking, oh my goodness, when am I about to pass away? It becomes much more positive than that. It's like planning a party for the future, that even though you might not be at that party, you can see that it's going to be an awfully good party. And it's a very positive thing to do.
Now I'm going to ask some questions about yourself.
Okay.
Where are you originally from?
I was born in London, England. And I was brought up in London. And my father was a taxi driver in London. I'm one of 4 daughters. I think my father very much hoped to have a boy, but Mum just kept on making girls. So I'm the second eldest of 4 girls. And being the second, I think, always puts you in a very comfortable position because you've got the older sister to look after you and to break all the ground, and you've got the younger sister behind in order to boss, whereas number 2 is quite comfortable. There's always somebody sort of there to look after you one way or another. And I think second children often become sort of quite talkative and quite secure in their position because they do have one in front and one behind. So a very noisy household with lots of women. So my poor father had to sort of listen to quite a lot of noise, and a very sort of interesting home environment. I then decided to become a journalist. I was very excited in becoming a journalist. When I was at school, I was part of a school magazine that we'd started up, and I thought it would be very exciting to go into journalism. And so in order to do that, I decided to take a law degree at the London School of Economics, London University, because I thought law would be a useful background for journalism, and it would enable me to move into a London newspaper. I mean, you're young, you don't understand how difficult it is when you're young, but I thought that would be an easy way of doing things. And then I started reading law at university, and I just became so excited about it. I was amazed what a difference good lawyers could make in the lives of people in terms of pursuing projects and pursuing justice and becoming involved with the evolution and change of the law. So having started law, I then decided not to pursue journalism, but actually then pursue my whole career in law. And it was definitely the right thing for me to do. I discovered a passion for law that I had no idea existed. And it's a passion that I have been able to maintain for over 35 years of practicing law. Still, every single day is exciting. You never know what is going to happen as part of your legal day. You never know when you meet a new client what kind of legal issues are going to be involved and what problems might be associated with their cases. And I've never lost my interest in finding out about somebody else's life. And I just find it so fascinating, the different routes people take in their lives, and then what kind of legal problems arise as a result of that. So I've always felt that as a lawyer, it's so important to love your work and to learn to love your work, and to really remember how important it is to maintain that process of learning. Very, very interesting. You should never feel that you know it all, and so you're at the top of your career, and so you don't need to learn anymore. Big mistake. And I think the most successful lawyers are those who realize there is always something else to be learned, and so it's important to keep that learning process going.
Great. And when did you come to Hong Kong?
Nearly 30 years ago now, in 1986 it must have been, or 1987. Originally I thought I would be here for about 18 months to get some international law experience and then move back to London. But within a day and a half of arriving here, I realized that this was definitely the place for me. The excitement of Hong Kong, the fact that you can do anything you really want to do. I thought it was amazing how much support Hong Kong Chinese gave to each other and to somebody who came to Hong Kong, who was willing to work hard and was excited by life here and was willing to embrace the culture of Hong Kong. And I've never really had a period of time where I felt impatient or dissatisfied with Hong Kong life, because I've just found the energy of Hong Kong people so invigorating. It's never been possible to think about going home.
So by that time, when you came to Hong Kong, you were already working with a law firm, or?
I joined a law firm. So I was a partner in a firm in London, but when I came to Hong Kong, I applied for a job and joined a law firm out here in Hong Kong, and then stayed with them for nearly 25 years and became a senior partner at that law firm. And then nearly 6 years ago, I left that law firm in order to join Withers, because my clients needed a deeper and richer source of support. And it was very interesting and very exciting being in a small local firm in Hong Kong. But once one's practice grows to a certain extent and your clients really need the additional sort of tentacles of the octopus, you know, they really need the tax and wealth planning advice and the commercial advice, it made more sense, and really was as a reaction to the needs of my clients, to move into an international practice where, although I could stay based here in Hong Kong with my clients, and where it is my home now and where I expect to be for the rest of my life, I had access to lawyers in 17 offices all the way around the world. Can you imagine? I have something like 160 partners. I have a workforce of over 1,000 available to me. In any 24 hours, somebody is working and doing something, and I've got access to all that information. That's what my clients want these days, and it became absolutely irresistible not to join a firm that could offer that kind of service that my clients so very much wanted. So I moved from the small local practice into Withers, the international firm, and it's been the best thing I could ever have done. And actually, it's meant that I have even more clients, because people were so pleased that I had moved into that kind of environment. It's meant that more people have come to me, knowing that I have a whole range of assistance to help them with their case, and that I have a whole range of other lawyers who can help take their own lives forward. So they're with me for a limited period of time, and then I can hand them over to somebody who can best meet their needs going forward.
So now, as a senior partner, like, what is your business philosophy? How you keep younger lawyers in the firm motivated? You obviously very passionate about work, but how to keep them motivated all the time? You know,
by being remarkably inclusive. And I have found I'm quite a tough boss. I mean, I can't pretend that, you know, I'm all soft and cuddly all the time. And I'll be soft and cuddly when people have done something good. But if they're not working as hard as me, and if they're not, you know, really giving a client what the client deserves, I can be really tough on my assistants and my partners. So I have a very, very high standard, which means they have to work to a very high standard. But what I found, even though I can be an absolute monster sometimes, is that the very best way to keep the very best people is to make it very much an open team. So it's very important that my assistants know they can speak to me at any time about any situation, whether it's good or bad. We have regular meetings as a team with food. I mean, I know I keep on saying I have all these meetings with tea and food, but I have to say in this firm and with my colleagues, food features a great deal. So everything is always solved over a cup of tea and some dim sum. But I find it's very important to have these regular meetings where we can all sit and talk about what's good or what's bad going on. Also, my philosophy is to ensure that women in particular don't feel that they have to make a choice between their family and their job. Really ensuring that people do remember to take holidays, that if people need to work at home for periods of time, either because their childcare arrangements have collapsed or because it's just important for them to be focused on home rather than the office, that I make it easy for people to operate from home and they can come into the office when it's necessary to see a client. So my philosophy for working, and I have male assistants and male partners as well, so it's not just female, but it's very much to ensure that work remains a crucial and important part of people's lives, but not the only part of their lives. And that's why we organise the bounce event, so this trampoline event, where the entire firm went to this trampoline event. We all had to dress in shorts and t-shirts, so it didn't matter whether it was the tea lady or the senior partner, and everybody in between, everybody was doing the same thing. And in order to be successful as a business, I think one has to be inclusive, so not exclusive, and make sure that everybody feels part of the same team and that everybody has an essential role in the success of the firm. So it's not just me or any other fancy lawyer that creates the success of the firm because we've had a great result in court or we've won a great result. But it's the whole team, the lady who brings the tea in for everybody at the meeting, the people who organise the offices, the secretaries who are busy preparing all the documents, that all of us form an essential part of the team to make it a success. And I don't think you can make it a success unless you understand the concept of inclusivity.
I also want to know, like, being a lawyer must be very stressful. I want to know how you yourself keep a balanced life from work and personal or family life. And I also want to know, dealing with your clients' problem all the time, facing failed marriages and others, how you maintain an optimistic attitude towards marriage and other good things.
I think marriage is really nice. And I think even more fun than marriage sometimes is falling in love. And so I think what is very, very nice, I believe in the concept of marriage. And even though I'm dealing with people who are uncoupling, so unmarrying, I still am very, very fundamentally optimistic about how important it is for people to have a partner. And that partner can be a husband or a wife or a partner of the same sex, or whatever it is. People enjoy having a partner to do things with. And I've never lost my fundamental sort of optimism or belief that it is important to ensure that you keep things as civilized as possible so that people can stay friendly. I do hear very sad stories, really very sad stories. And I feel that, part of my role as a divorce lawyer is to help particularly those who are sad because they're the ones who have been dumped, their partner has made the decision to leave. That I can offer really helpful and constructive advice as to how to reconstruct their lives, financially, socially, give them hope that, even though we're going to go through a very grim period of time, it's going to get better. And I think I'm able to do that because, I've got a nice social life, I've got strong family, I enjoy going out, I enjoy having fun. I'm not married, but I enjoy dating and, as I say, falling in love. Falling out of love is always a bit sad, but then you bounce back and sort of find somebody else. And I think people have some confidence when they meet somebody like me who is not depressed about it all and who is able to offer lots of constructive options as to how they can get their life moving forward. And I think that is an important role because it's terribly easy to destroy something and just throw it away. And what's terribly important is to help people build things up again and make them realize that actually there's an even more exciting adventure just around the corner, as long as they allow themselves to have the confidence to enjoy that adventure.
And so you yourself just like go out for fun, to relax?
Yes, I eat too much. I drink too much. I keep on promising myself to do more hiking, and one day I really will do it more regularly. And now I'm doing the bounce trampoline. I thought, yes, this is a good way to sort of have lots of exercise. I do all the usual Hong Kong things, which usually involve much too much eating and drinking. And the one thing I'm a complete disaster at is karaoke. And now even the girls here in the office won't let me come with them to karaoke because even though everybody sounds bad in karaoke, I sound worse than most. So they all do that secretly now and don't involve me. But so I do all the usual things that everybody really enjoys doing in Hong Kong. And I travel a bit. And that's always important, to have the opportunity to just sometimes escape, be anonymous. You're never very far away from your BlackBerry or iPad. But it is nice sometimes just to be exploring a completely different country, immersing yourself in a completely different culture, and just seeing how wide the world is. We all say the world is very small these days, but actually when you do go somewhere very exciting, you realize that the world is a big place. There are a lot of places still to explore. And I think that's actually something important to remember, and for me particularly, to realize that, there'll come a time when perhaps I'm not working quite as hard as I do at the moment, and there will be a very exciting adventure ahead to explore some of those countries I've not yet seen. So that will be good.
That's great. And my final question is, do you have any suggestions for youngsters in Hong Kong who want to be lawyers someday, or already in law school, or very young lawyers? What will be your suggestion to them in order to be successful?
I think it's a fabulous career still. I think it's a fabulous career for women and for men. And I really think it's a career that's worth pursuing. And my advice is, really, you have to learn to be committed to learning and working very hard. And it's the depth of the job, the number of ways in which you can help people in all different areas of law, and the role you can play in changing the law. I've been involved in many things. I'm involved in many legal publications. I do quite a lot of lecturing. I'm on a number of committees for law reform and change. So the whole concept of law is not simply doing one particular job. It's such a wide area of possibilities that I would encourage anybody with a lively, inquiring mind to definitely pursue this as a career option. Very, very exciting job. Never once been sorry by the choices I've made in terms of being a lawyer.
Great. I don't have any more questions.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Thank you very, very much.
I know, my pleasure. I'm a big talker. Sorry about that.
Well,